Alright, so this is a very simple guide on how to fight the most annoying and toughest orcs. There are captains that you might find impossible. Let's say it's a defender that keeps breaking your vaults, or it's an agile assassin or trickster that keeps dodging your attacks, or maybe it's a savage axe wielder that you can't seem to land a hit on because they'll just hit you back. Especially if they have Vault Breaker or if they're fast adapt. And maybe even they're hacked, if you're on PC. Online sieges, a lot of hacked orcs. So this is just a very simple guide on how to get through the enemies. Yeah, so don't ever blindly swing at an enemy. That's not a good idea. Also, try and avoid attacking from the front. Yeah, just swinging at a captain like a madman doesn't usually work. Alright, so what you need is Fatal Might, Spectral Dash, Deadly Striker, and Waters of Lorien. This is all very important. So Waters of Lorien can bypass Vault Breakers, you can get immediately behind them. Spectral Dash is a really good gap closer. So Waters of Lorien always puts you a set distance behind the enemy. Spectral Dash always repositions you next to the enemy, so that's a good repositioning tool. Fatal Might synergizes perfectly with Waters of Lorien, because when you dash through an enemy while Fatal Might is active, you gain might and increase your combo counter. So that's really strong. And Deadly Striker, it's really good for hitting captains on the ground. So the problem with ground finishes is they can be adapted. Oh right, and you want Elven Light as well. Elven Light can't be adapted as long as you don't have any of the elements active. So it doesn't matter what immunities they have, this will work. So trick is quite simple. You can either go with the really cheesy way of just constantly dashing through them with Waters of Lorien. That will build up your might with Fatal Might, and then you can just Elven Light, stun them, knock them to the ground, and then Deadly Striker. Now be careful with the glaive because it doesn't have animation cancel. So if you're mid-swing and they attack you, you can't dodge, right? You have to wait for the animation to finish. So only use follow-ups when they're on the ground, and if they're about to get up, if you see them about to getting up, just pause and then just get them on the ground again before you go back to using the glaive. There's another trick where if you dash behind an enemy with Waters of Lorien, if you follow up immediately after the dash with a stun, they can't dodge that, they can't counter that. It won't work if they've adapted or if they're frostproof, but that's just another trick. But yeah, if you immediately dash behind an enemy, even with like regular melee attacks, some of the agiles like tricksters and assassins, they can still dodge. Another way to get around that is if you have the threshing sword, what you can do is Waters of Lorien, dash behind them, and then immediately spectral dash right next to them, and then single charge glaive. Alright, don't double charge, just single charge your glaive. And then that explosion, when you're behind them with the glaive, will stun them. It's a guaranteed stun. And then you'll be able to knock them on the ground, and you can, use the follow-ups. The glaive is your friend. Don't ignore it. The glaive can't be dodged, can't be parried. Only can be blocked by shields, but you can just dash behind them to deal with that. One other thing is that the glaive, a single charge only, can bypass Death Defy trait on tanks. So if you don't want them to give that long rant and then get up and fight again, the killing blow must be dealt with a single charge glaive. The follow-ups of Deadly Striker doesn't work. And also regarding Elven Light, you want to be careful when you're dealing with enraged enemies. Enraged captains are as dangerous. The stun for Elven Light wears off really quickly against enraged enemies. So if they're enraged, just dodge around, wait for them to calm down. It might take a while if they're a berserker with the epic rage trait. And another thing is the gem slot on your sword. The sword gem slot affects the glaive. It's good for Deadly Striker, so if you want to increase damage or if you want some lifesteal, you can put on a green gem. So useful notes. So these are several methods you can use against Uruk captains. With Ologs, there aren't really any special strategy, just use Elven Light to keep them stunned. I tend to use the Amaranthine, that epic sword that gives you might bonus, just so you can keep them stunned easier, so you need less hits. Yeah, with Ologs, it's just dodge, slide, and then slide under them, get behind them, just keep whacking them. Ologs can't dodge, Ologs can't block, they can only tank and retaliate. So yeah, that's a very simple guide. And also, Water Solarian and Fatal Might synergizes extremely well with the Mask of the Undying. So again, this whole thing, you don't need any sort of like RNG farming, except for perhaps the Amaranthine, but you don't need that. That just makes your life a lot easier. Mask of the Undying, you can obtain it through the end story missions, so that's fine. And again, I mentioned the Threshing Sword as well, so that's not completely necessary. You can use the cheese spam method, with getting might via dashing, but yeah, this shouldn't be too difficult to get as well. So yeah, this is not very RNG heavy. You can just get all of this pretty much without problem.